can start lessons at 4 months old, which I think a lot of parents, may not, know that you can actually get your kid into lessons, at that age. Talk a little bit about what may be a swim lesson for 4-month-old or 6-month-old.
So I know it is crazy.
Like.
Some people are like very shocked that we start so early. But it's getting your newborn in the water. It's good for bonding with parents or relatives in that newborn. A lot of getting them acclimated to the water. And it's proven that swim lessons at that age help with brain development and motor skills, like fine motor skills. And we're just getting them comfortable in the water. So our curriculum is based on, we call it the science of swim play. We know kids that learn best through play. So all of our curriculum focuses on learning to swim, but through a fun way. So through guided play. So in our mini lessons, we guide parents through different activities. We sing songs. There's different fun skills every week. So we want to make it fun for the parents. We want to make it engaging for the parents too. We want to teach you what we're doing, explain why we're doing certain skills, whether it's improving their grip strength so they can hold on to the water, teaching them to float on their back, float on their front, why their hands should be in a certain position when we're poling. So all sorts of stuff like that. But
and yeah, I'm sorry. As far as like, I kind of am assuming that the parent goes in the water with the child, especially at that age,
correct.
Right? It's not an instructor that's holding the child,
parents
right?
are in water up until your child is 2. And at that point, you have an option to step out of water and have your parent or have your child in the water with just an instructor. So we actually just transitioned our 2-year-old to that next level without a parent, and it is amazing. she tries more and does way more without mom and dad in the water. So it's been really fun to see her develop and grow and increase her swimming abilities.
Did you start her at
I think
4
we
months
actually
old
started
or
around 6
that
months. But yeah, she loves the water. It's been really fun. We definitely go through stages of like really excited for lessons, and then some weeks she's not at all. So like we totally get it if your kid is screaming, crying, doesn't want to go to swim lessons, but we try to commit to it every week and we still go, and she ends up having a great time. So
you also think about that too, of how, I mean, obviously this is going a little bit off topic, but when the kid loves, let's just say apples, and you buy them so many apples they're eating, and then one day they're like, I don't want this, I hate apples, and then you're like, what happened? So I think it's just life. It just kind of happens.
Yes,
but eventually they'll come back to it. Now, once a kid reaches 2 years old, what does a typical lesson look like, especially when the parents not in the water?
So we do a lot of the same skills that we use in the mini level, but it's learning more independence. So you're still working a lot on the independent floating front and back, working on our pulling and our kicking. We introduce some more tools, like different floating devices for them to do certain drills. But we have these little fish kickboards that sit out on the pool deck, so they still learn to take turns and be safe during the lesson. A lot of parents are like, how do you manage to have 4 3-year-olds sit there and wait their turn? But surprisingly, they all kind of follow suit. We go over our safety rules before the lesson. They know to wait their turn. It goes very smoothly. But yeah, and it's fun. They get to watch each other. I know we have a lot of requests for private lessons. I think parents sometimes don't know the benefits of group lessons, but kids actually learn a lot from watching each other. They gain confidence. They tend to conquer their fears quicker. So we think group lessons are very important to a child's growth in the water.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it might be, if you have a pool at home, it might be a little bit easier, as far as access, like just come over, I'm in a meeting and take care of it at that point. But you also get to bond. It's almost like group fitness exercise, or, going to an office or something where, you get to see other kids. And, I've noticed as far as like my parenting journey is that sometimes you try to give your child a lesson, you try to teach them something and it doesn't necessarily click, but then you see other kids or they're with other kids and they're like, oh, this is how you share. Oh, this is what I'm supposed to do. And that really, it just like, it clicks with them. So I think definitely, being with other kids.
No, it absolutely does.
Difference.
And it's fun when you can see it too. They might be all crazy before class, and then as soon as they all sit down, they're all very much paying attention. And yeah, I didn't even mention this, and I'm sorry, it slipped my brain, but all of our lessons focus on water safety. Obviously, it goes without saying. So like even from our mini lessons all the way to our pros, we're still working on essential life-saving skills. So the like learning to float on your back, learning if you fell in the water to turn around, swim back to the closest wall. So we always go through certain water safety skills along with the skills of learning to develop the stroke to be able to swim.
I mean, that's one of the most heartbreaking things that I get to
Yeah.
see, or I don't get to see, but unfortunately, we get to see, over the summer of a kid drowning, something that happened as an accident, some kid who stuck into a pool or went into the lake at some point, and obviously, depending on where you live, the waves might take you in, and that's a whole nother situation of not being where you're not supposed to. But if you're at a family pool, maybe when there's not a parent watching, or you don't know what you're doing, and I hate to see that happen, and I think that just shows the importance of swim lessons, so that kids have that instinct of knowing what to do if they find themselves in a
Absolutely. And
situation
I
like that.
know summer is coming, nearing to an end, but even throughout the year, we find ourselves near or around bodies of water, whether it's lakes, pools, whatever. So we always say it's super important to work on your skills year round too, because it only takes a few months for a child to forget what they're supposed to do in that specific scenario. So practicing those skills, talking about water safety with your kids year round is so important, because we see drownings year round and it's really scary. It's really sad. And it's a very real statistic that it's the number one cause of accidental death for children ages 1 to 4. So it's happening every day. I think it's actually like 3 kids. We lose 3 kids a day to that, to drowning. So yeah, very real, very scary. So
I know you and I had chatted earlier in the week, and not only is it the infants, who maybe parents who may not know that they need floaties, that they should let the kid be in the tiny
yeah,
shallow part with a guardian right there, or maybe some other factor, knowing that like the kid has to be safe. But you mentioned the fact, as far as like teenage boys who might find themselves in situations where they end up drowning, and that statistic, as far as making sure that they're covered, because not only is it something you have to worry about as an infant,
yes,
but even in through
absolutely.
their
And I
teen
know that's
years.
something that I feel like a lot of people don't think about too. Our kids are constantly, and us too as adults, we're constantly put in situations where we might need to learn how to swim or know how to swim, whether it's like a pool party or going to the beach. That is going to continue to happen throughout our entire life. So knowing how to swim is super important, especially when there's certain pressures as a teenager or whatnot, to feel like you need to get in the water. You want them to feel comfortable and confident in their swimming abilities so your kids are safe.
We talked a little bit about private pools, but as far as maybe, obviously kids are at home, they may or may not be in a summer camp, they may or may not be taking lessons, and sometimes it's tough to entertain your kids from morning until bedtime, because kids don't want to go to sleep in the summer.
Yeah.
Kids just want to be active and doing things. And you might have a pool at your house, or you might have a friend or a neighbor who has a pool, and like, let's invite everybody over. Maybe some things that parents should know before sending their kids over there, especially if they haven't had lessons, and also to the parents who own these pools, as far as taking some responsibility, as far as not just, hey, invite your friends, but making sure that they know what
Absolutely.
they're going to do, so that
So
everybody
for the
is safe.
parents sending their children, I would say if your child isn't confident in their swimming ability, or if you're not confident in your child's swimming ability, make sure that they're wearing a U.S. Coast Guard approved life jacket. It'll say U.S. Coast Guard approved on the life jacket. I know a lot of puddle jumpers are not, so which means they're not safe if they were caught in a certain situation and may not get them to float in the proper position that will save their life. So making sure they have that. We always say bright colored swimwear. I know it sounds silly, but like the brighter color swimwear, the more visible they are if they were to be in distress. So a parent could see them or another friend can see them. A good reminder to your child also, we say throw, don't go. If you have a friend that looks like they need help, don't go in after them. There's a very good chance that they might bring you down with them, especially kids that just don't understand. They're quickly, will grab you. And if your child isn't strong enough, hold the both of them, then they're both going down. So always have like some sort of tube or floaty or noodle or something that you can throw to a friend if a friend is in distress in the pool. Um, that's a good one for the parent hosting the party too. And then also we always talk
And just to have a couple
Absolutely.
extra like around so that like they want to play with them, or in case a situation like this
Yeah.
comes up, that they're
For the
already
parent
covered. Yeah.
hosting the party, I would make sure that you know who can swim and who can't swim. And if certain kids cannot swim, offer a life jacket if they don't have one. I would definitely not want a child in the pool that cannot swim under your watch. And then having a water guardian at all times. So having one adult whose job it is to watch the pool and nothing else, no distractions, no phone. And that person can switch out every 15 minutes, but having an adult watching the pool at all times, because it only takes 1 minute for something to happen. And God forbid, if you're that adult, I can't even imagine the guilt that you would feel if something bad happened under your watch.
Yeah. I just want to point out that as far as like not having a phone and watching, I mean, I think every parent has a story of, I'm just going to check this one email, I'm just going to send this one text, and before you know it, their kid has dumped out, all the spoons out of the kitchen, or has like thrown all the crayons onto the floor. You're like, I just turned around for a second. And that's something that you can easily clean up. This is something, more serious, but you just see that like taking your eyes off of them for a couple of
Yep.
moments of
It's very,
just what
very
can
scary
happen.
and very real.
As and I would say too, there might have been. I know we're kind of ending towards the end of summer here in the Midwest, and obviously we don't want the cold weather and the things we want to enjoy all those fun summer activities. But I'm sure there's some parents and some kids who maybe weren't able to join during that Memorial Day weekend or 4th of July, who maybe were scared to go into the water, or maybe they were like 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years
Yeah.
old who've never had any lessons, and then their friends are all swimming. Their friends have all been doing it since maybe they were younger. How do you start that, and how do you have that conversation, especially trying to learn something where
I
you might be a little bit
think
behind
it's
on
an
some of your
important
peers?
conversation for parents to have with their children. The burden kind of falls on us as parents to make sure that your children are set up for success. And to any parents out there that are feeling like you've already missed the boat of getting your kids in lessons, that is not at all the case. We have kids in lessons who are 12 and 13 years old. We've had kids that come to us anytime between like 10 and 12 years old or 13. Technically, we say our lessons go until 12 years old, but if a 13-year-old comes in and doesn't know how to swim, we're absolutely going to be there and help them learn. So we cater our lessons to the age groups also. I know we've had some older kids in the beginning lessons, and the last thing they want to feel is that they're 4 years older than this 5-year-old that doesn't know how to swim, and they're feeling embarrassed and like low self-esteem, low confidence. So our instructors are very good at making them feel like you're in the appropriate level, like, and catering to each individual swimmer throughout the lesson. We also can tell parents too, when you sign up for lessons, if you have a 10-year-old and you want to be in a beginner lesson with other older kids, look how old the kids are before we sign you up specific class. So, maybe it's like an older beginner lesson. Maybe the other kids are within like 1 or 2 years of your child. It might make them feel better about it. But it's very normal to get your kids enrolled. I think that's almost the hardest. As a parent, older child that doesn't know how to swim, it's probably 10 times harder to sign them up for lessons than it is a 3 or 4-year-old. So all I can say is do it. You won't regret it. And our team will do the best that we can to make your child have fun and make sure that they feel welcome and secure in our environment of lessons.
And we always, applaud, those stories you see in the news as far as like someone in their 70s who goes back to college, who maybe, never did it, or someone who learned a skill, later in life, that shouldn't have any type of shame or any type of stigma attached to it, where if you are later grade school level or high school level, you don't know how to swim, go ahead and start it. It shouldn't be something that you're just going to have to avoid. It's something that you're like, hey, you learn at every age. Just because some people learn it earlier, some people learn it later, but it's important
Yes,
to learn that skill.
absolutely. And if parents with older kids have questions or are feeling hesitant or don't know how to like talk to their kids about it, but they know they want to get us in lessons, I'm happy you can reach out to me. I will talk about it, and hopefully we can get your kids in, even bringing them in for family sims so they can see like where they'd be taking lessons for older and younger kids. I think just seeing the environment and being like, okay, I could see myself in a lesson here, learning how to swim, or come in and watch lessons and see if it's something that maybe they'd be like, okay, I could do that. So it's less intimidating for them too.
As far as the skill levels go, how quickly, I mean, obviously every kid is different, but how quickly should kids be moving on to the next level or grasping onto something, as far as what
Yeah,
the
so
instructors are
it
teaching
totally
them?
depends on the child and like how comfortable they are in the water, how quickly they pick things up. We have kids that can master those end goals of a level in a matter of weeks, and there are some kids that it might take a few months. Obviously, certain skills are harder than others. So it just depends on, again, how comfortable they are, how fearful they are of the water. And then we tell our instructors to give the parents homework. So it also depends on how much you're doing outside of your weekly lesson too, just like school. Practicing things at home, even without a pool, like, doing things on the floor, pretending to pull and kick on the floor, pretending to do your rollover, doing a lot of things that will help their muscle memory to help them the next week in the pool. And then we have kids that come multiple times a week too, but I know that is a lot financially to ask. So we never say that is the only way they're going to get better. There's stuff that you guys can do at home too.
Yeah, I mean, we'll talk a little bit about the price, because I know, when you look at the price, you're like, oh, that's, a commitment. But you think of what the results are going to be and the confidence you're going to put into your child and how comfortable you're going to feel if they're invited to a party or if they are swimming. And as they get older, that nothing is going to happen to them. I mean, you knock on wood that nothing does, but that they would have those skill levels that they find themselves in a situation that they could get themselves out of. But I think, I know as an adult, those fitness classes are right around the same price. If you go out for happy hour and you buy 2 rounds of drinks, it's that same price. If you get 2 appetizers, it's that same type of price. So when you think of the things you do as an adult, as far as your free time or how you spend your money, obviously you can't do those things when you have a child or multiple children, but you kind of just funnel that, like, okay,
Yeah.
this was my, cycling class money.
No, I
Now
think
this is going to be
that's
my swim
a
lesson money.
great way to put it, and it like really brings you back, and like that exactly. That's exactly it. It seems like it's a lot, but in the end, when it can save their life, it's worth those 2 cocktails that you didn't have.
100%. We talked a little bit about the kids who, as far as like maybe are not as comfortable in the water, and I've seen it. But let's talk a little bit about the child who, they go in there, they have their swimsuit on, and are already crying as they're walking up to their lane. Who may be staying out of the water, and may be wanting to have comfort from their parents. And it's, it's a financial commitment, but it's also, I think, as a parent, when you see your child struggling, you want to be able to help them. So how do you deal when a kid is crying and maybe not
Yeah,
taking to the lessons
great
at the
question.
beginning?
And it's so hard. And I finally, over the last 2 years of our daughter being in lessons, was the parent dealing with that anxiety as your child crying. And it happens a lot. It is very normal. We say it usually takes up to 4 lessons. So like the 4th lesson for your child to feel comfortable, but it's really about them gaining the trust of the teacher and the confidence and realizing that they are in a safe environment and that it's okay. So again, it usually takes a couple lessons, but it is so hard to watch as a parent. I totally get it. We suggest that parents sit in the viewing area. I know it seems like really hard to like pass a screaming, crying child. Like I struggled with it also, but pass them off to deck supervisor. We have extra hands on deck for that reason. We have extra lifeguards that are down that help with kids who are upset. Our swim instructors have been trained. They know what to do in those scenarios. We try our best to have distractions and like have the curriculum kind of be a distraction. So talk about like what we're doing and get different like toys and equipment involved. But yeah, so as a parent, I guess my advice would be, as hard as it is, try to stay in the viewing area and maybe even hide. We had to hide for 2 weeks. And then I think it was probably within like 10 or 15 minutes of the lesson, we like would peek back out and she would be happy as a clam, just like enjoying swimming. So hide if necessary so they don't see your face, because they are going to want you. But just have faith that it's going to get better. So I would keep trying to come and hoping it's going to get better. From our experience, it does. So just have faith that your child will get there, to trust their teacher. Another thing you can do is come to our family swim just so the kids are more familiar with the environment they're in, and they associate goldfish in the pool with something happy and fun, so it's not as scary. So we do host 3 family swims throughout the week. So we invite you to come to those, make swimming fun, use the same equipment that we use in lessons, so it's less scary, and yeah, they kind of have an understanding of what they'll be doing. But yeah, hopefully, does that help? Do you have any other questions?
No, that totally helps, because I think what I'm taking in from you is some of the other lessons, as far as, when I would take my child and introduce a new food, and it was crazy that we didn't go to the store to buy it, talk about it, and put it on the plate. It just kind of showed up, and that's when they freaked out. When we were trying to go somewhere, as far as like, we have to get in the car, we have to go, and it's like, why are you lifting me up and putting me in here? And when I changed my approach, as far as like, let's get our shoes, let's get our hat, we're going to go here, and then we're going to go there. And once you explain it to them, because oftentimes I think it's like, when the child is an infant, sometimes you just kind of go through the motions of, I'm going to put you in the car seat, we're going to go here, I have to do this, we have to run to the grocery store, I got to go to work, you're going to drop off at daycare, and you don't explain to them. And the kids understand. So imagine being, let's just say, as an adult, you're sitting at home, and then someone lifts you up, takes you somewhere, and there's a body of water that you've never seen before.
Yeah.
How would you react? And I think, kind of thinking it from your perspective, and talking to a child, maybe watching, especially like, I don't want to name any, particular cartoons or children's programming, but there are some that deal with like swim safety and what it like go in the pool. So maybe watching a couple of those. If there's some books you can read as far as what the water looks like, visiting, as a family ahead of time, so that it's not like, I'm sitting here playing with my toys, and now suddenly there's a scary body of water. What am I supposed to do? And maybe that might help with the transition.
We also, it's so funny, we're reading a school book now for my daughter, because she's going to school in this coming year. But yes, I'm like, I didn't even read a swimming book, and I should have. We sell them at Goldfish, so it's interested to read a book about swim lessons. Like, that's such a great idea. Just to get them ready. We usually say too, if you know that your child has some sort of like anxiety around new things, which is extremely normal, maybe come to lessons a little early. We'll give you guys a tour, and you can watch some of the lessons go on. So, but we did that with my daughter. We came almost 30 minutes early. We walked around, she colored a little bit, and then we watched one of the lessons going on. So she was super excited to get in without us. So yeah, all good things. Yeah.